All right, this video is going to go over triangles and how to solve them. When I solve triangles, I'm mainly using these two equations and then also realizing that the angles of a triangle add up to 180. So the first thing to realize is if they give you two angles, they're really giving you three angles because these three angles have to add up to 180. So like 50 plus 40 is 90, 180 minus 90, this would have to be a 90-degree angle. So that's the first thing to realize is if they give you two angles, really they gave you three angles. Now, another thing to realize is that you're going to have these two equations, right? But you can't use law of sines. This is the easiest one to use, law of sines, but you can't use it unless you have some angle and its oppo side length. If you don't have a combination of an angle and its opposite side length, you can't really do law of sines. You would have to run law of cosines. So let me show you what I mean here on some examples. All right, look at number 1. They want you to find BC. That means this side length right here. So the first thing I do when I approach this problem is realize that they gave me two angles, which means they really gave me three angles. So these two add up to 91. 180 minus 91 is 89 degrees. So that's the very first thing I do. I fill in that angle. Now I look and I see if I have some angle and its oppo side length, because if I do, I can run law of sines on it, which is much easier. So this is a law of sines problem. So I can go like this. I can go sine of angle B, which is 89 degrees, over its side length 8 equals, they want me to find BC here. So I'm going to use angle A, the oppo, when I run this equation. So sine of angle A, which is 61 degrees, over side length BC. BC. All right. Now, I know it sounds stupid, but make sure your calculator is in degrees, not radians. I can't tell you how many times I've done this and I was in radians and I'm getting weird answers. So how you're going to solve this is you're going to cross multiply. So 8 times sine 61 equals BC times sine 89. So to solve for BC, I need to divide by sine 89. So now you're just going to punch this right here into the calculator. 8 times sine 61 degrees. So the top part is basically 7. And sine 89 is basically 1. So you end up with, we'll just call it 7 as my side length. So again, I recognize that I had an angle and its oppo side length, and that was my cue to run law of sines. All right, let's look at the next one. The next one, they give me an angle and its oppo side length. So immediately I know I'm going to be running law of sines here. They want this angle, angle A right here. So this one I would set up sine of 62 over the side length 28 equals sine of angle A over its oppo side length of 25. Now again, you're going to cross multiply. So it's going to be like 28 times sine A equals 25 times sine 62. You're going to have to divide by 28 here. So let me go ahead and get a value for that. 25 times sine 62 divided by 28. So I got sine A was 0.788. Now, that's not your answer though. You still have to run inverse sine because this is what sine of it is. So I'm going to run inverse sine on both sides of this. And so when you inverse sine 0.788, you get 52 degrees. We'll just, yeah, we'll call it 52 degrees. It's like 52.03 or something. Okay, this next one. They don't give me any angles at all. When that happens, I have no combination of like an angle and its opposite side length. That means I cannot use law of sines. I would have to run law of cosines. So that's going to be my go-to. Now, I want to find out which angle they want. They want angle C right here. So I'm going to be using its oppo 28 in place of the C in my equation. So it's going to look like this. 28 equals a squared plus b squared are those side lengths. So like 18 squared plus 12 squared. Then it's minus 2 times those side lengths, and then times the cosine of angle C, which is the one we're looking for. Okay, this equation's wrong. Sorry, it should be C squared. So it's 28 squared. So let's go ahead and get some values for this. 28 squared is 784. 18 squared is 324. 12 squared is 144. Let's see, 216 times 2, 432. Cosine C. All right, so I just gave some numerical values. I'm just kind of cleaning up my work here. So now I'm going to add these numbers. 324 plus 144 is 468. I'm showing all my work because a lot of kids get stuck on just the solving portion of this. So now I'm going to minus 468. You get 316 equals negative 432 times cosine C. My next step is to divide by negative 432. You get negative 0.73 is cosine C. But don't forget, you have to inverse cosine this. And that will tell you what C actually is. So if I inverse cosine negative 0.73, I get C equals, we'll call it 137 degrees. So again, since they did not give me an angle and its oppo side length, I could not run law of sines, which is what I wanted to do. So I instead had to run law of cosines. So let's look at another example. In this example, they do not give you a combo of something and its oppo side length. So that means I'm going to be running law of cosines again. They're going to want this side length. So I'm going to call this C for my equation, like angle C. I know it's technically angle B, but you can call them whatever you want. So let me show you how I would set this up. I would set it up AC, this I'm calling side length C, and I'm calling this angle C, just to clarify. So it would look like this. C squared equals the side lengths squared added together minus 2 times the side lengths cosine of angle C, which was 93 degrees. Like that. Now you could just type this whole thing straight into the calculator and get your answer. Let's do that. So 14 squared plus 20 squared minus 2 times 14 times 20 cosine 93 degrees. Enter. So I got C squared equals 625. And then you just root that. That was an ugly square root. Let's try that again. Then you just root that to get your C value, which would be 25. Again, since I did not have an angle on the oppo side length, I had to run law of cosines. not law of sines. All right, these last two, they want you to solve the whole triangle. So the first thing to do would be to go get the angles if they've given you two, like this one. So they've given me two here. Those angles add up to 105, which means this angle has to be 75 degrees. Now that I have that angle, I have an oppo combo here, so I can run law of sines. So it's going to be like sine 75 degrees over 28 equals sine of 41 over this. We'll call it AC. That's A to C right there. And then it's also going to equal the sine of 64 over BC here. See how it's oppo? So BC. All right, now you can just cross multiply and solve these things. So here's what I mean. The first one I would do 28 times sine of 41 has to equal sine 75 times AC. You'll end up having to divide by sine 75. Sorry, my handwriting is getting sloppy. It's at the bottom of the screen here. It's difficult. So now you can just punch this right here into your calculator. So 28 times sine 41 divided by sine 75. I got 19. So I know side AC is 19. So this is 19. All right, and then you do the same thing for the next one. So it would look like 20, let me switch colors. 28 sine 64 equals BC times sine 75. You're gonna have to divide by sine 75. Now you can just punch this whole thing into the calculator again. So 28 times sine 64 divided by sine 75 gives you a value of 26. So BC is 26. I put that 19 in the wrong spot earlier. Sorry about that. 26 goes here. The 19 was here, side AC. All right, hope I didn't confuse you too much with putting those side links in the wrong spot. Basically, go get all those angles. Once you have all those angles, you can run law of sines on that, and it's not too difficult. Which brings us to our last example. This is definitely a law of cosines because you don't have any angles whatsoever. So you kind of just have to pick whichever angle to get first. I'm going to get angle A since it's the biggest. So it's going to look like this. The oppo is 30. So it's going to be like 30 squared equals 20 squared plus 17 squared minus 2 times those cosine of the angle C. We're calling it C. I know it's angle A. I don't care. All right. Now, you're going to work this out. So it's going to be 900 here. This is 400. This is 289. This is 680 cosine C. So go ahead and add up 400 and 289. That would be 689. Now you're going to subtract 689. So you're going to get 211 equals negative 680 cosine C. You're going to divide by negative 680. (211) divided by negative 680 is negative 0.31. But that's not your answer. Remember, that's what cosine of your answer is. So you have to run inverse cosine. When you do that, you'll get C equals inverse cosine of that is 108 degrees. 108 degrees. All right, and once you have that, now I've got a combo of an angle and its oppo side length. So I can run law of sines to get the next one. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run sine 108 over its length is 30 equals, you can just pick one to get here. Let's get angle B. So sine B over its side length 20. Cross multiply, you'll get 20 sine 108 equals 30 sine B. So divide by 30. Punch this in the calculator. 20 sine 108 divided by 30 is 0.63. Then you're going to run inverse sine of this. So inverse sine of that is 39. So B is 39 degrees. And once you know that, now you know two angles, which means you really know three angles. Add it to the 108 from earlier, and then do 180 minus that, and you get 32, 33 degrees. So we'll call it 33 degrees. So that's how I would have approached those problems. The main takeaway is you've got these two equations. Law of sines is your best friend, but you can only use it when you have an angle and its oppo side length. If you don't have that, you're going to have to be running law of cosines. Hope this video helped.